Nadya Okamoto has built a movement that spans activism, content, and commerce. She distributed millions of period products through her nonprofit work, published a best-selling book, built a huge social following, and launched her startup August, a Gen Z-driven period product. And get this, Nadya is only 27. So I met you, I think 2021 at Founders Weekend. This is going to sound so culty, but we were sitting in like one of those circles, remember? And like everyone was talking about like their asks and getting support. And the minute you spoke, I left that kind of circle gathering being like, oh my God, I am obsessed with this girl. Like you were just so honest and so eloquent. And I just found it so inspiring when I found out how old you are. Because I started my company when I was the age you are now, let alone like that entire resume that I've just talked about and how much you've done. So you're super inspiring and I'm really excited to kind of share your story with our audience. And I think it's going to do really well.
Thank you for having me.
You were an activist before you were a founder of August. What led to you going into something that was for profit after being in nonprofit for so long?
Yeah. So I ran this nonprofit from like age 16 to age 19, 20. And as an executive director, your role eventually is to fundraise constantly, right? And I think for me, you know, when I was 16 and I wanted to truly just do something for the community, which was homeless women in my area of Portland, Oregon need period products. Let me collect them through drives and give them out. It kind of grew into like a larger organization where we had staff, we had to have partnerships, and like all of that cost a lot of money. And so I would say that, you know, I got into the nonprofit work because of like my heart and soul. I wanted to advocate. I think I naively didn't know that at the end of the day, like as an executive director, you are fundraising.
Yeah.
You are writing grants. I was pulling all-nighters like on top of high school and doing all these things to apply to any grant that I could. And, you know, what originally started as $50 grants, $100 grants, $500 grants, and handwriting letters to like literally parents at my high school to donate anything became like larger grants, right? Yeah. But I think that at the end of the day, it just like did not feel sustainable, right? It was like, this is not what I signed up for. I don't just want to be fundraising constantly. Yeah. I think that part of the nonprofit industrial complex is you don't feel like you can take your foot off the gas pedal, right? Because if you take a week off, it's like nothing.
It has huge impact. It's huge on other people.
Yeah, it's like you just don't have funding coming in. Yeah. It's just like a constant, it feels very meritocratic in many ways.
Yeah.
And I also found that when I was fundraising, the biggest funders we were looking at were for-profit brands, right? Like Procter & Gamble was a huge donor, and it still is to the organization, whether it be through product or cash. And so when I really felt like, who are the people who have like the decision-making power, right? When I was on the nonprofit side and I wanted to run a campaign, I had to put a pitch deck together and then pitch it to a brand or to a funder to be able to make it happen. There was this added red tape and it came with restrictions on how we could advocate, how we could speak, what language we could use. And I think I just got to a point where I was sick of that. I was like, you know, I'm going to go start a brand. And at that point, I had done all this research around like the industry. I had a lot of ideas on how the industry could change. I had spent years trying to advocate from behind the scenes, trying to push the brands to be more period positive, more transparent. And I think I just got fed up with that. The irony of this all is that when you start a company, you have to fundraise. So it's like I couldn't escape that at all. Yeah.
I was going to say, do you think it was that experience that set you off to doing such a big pre-seed? Because your pre-seed was $2 million, right?
Yeah.
So do you think that's what led into it? Or because how do you also with brands like Lola and bigger period brands that are around, like how do you differentiate and walk into a market and are able to raise a pre-seed like that? Like most people wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah. No, $2 million pre-seed is a huge pre-seed. Yeah. I actually don't think it had anything to do with like my previous experience. It was purely like the market that we were in, right? Like we were in 2020, 2021. That was like the height of direct to consumer funding, right? Yeah. I mean, it's been crazy because now we're 5 years in and have seen the priorities of these VCs shift, right? So I mean, 2020, 2021, like everyone was so excited about direct to consumer. Raising a large pre-seed like that was not as uncommon as it is now, right? We weren't getting any pressure back then to integrate AI into our pitch in the same way.
Or to be profitable.
Yeah, or honestly, like I remember there was like a year where so many VCs were asking us about our plans for Web3, right? Like I think there are different trends, but when we were raising, the market we were in was very excited about direct to consumer. In the pandemic, we were a subscription-based period care brand. But yeah, I mean, I think from the beginning, there were a lot of questions about how you're going to differentiate. We got a lot of rejection from people who are like, but period products already exist. You know, tampons are a class 2 FDA approved medical device. Like how different can yours be? We're really proud that we do have strong product differentiation. I think we're known for like best in class, super comfortable products, like our pads, especially, like you really feel how much softer and more comfortable they are. You know, we also really wanted to position the brand almost as like a disruptor that you see in the beauty space, right? Where like eyeliner can be eyeliner, but you create a brand around it that is like stands for something in a community and this ethos. So it was very much like, yes, product differentiation and like, how do we literally create a bold period care brand in a category that can barely say the word period without cringing.
And I think that probably has a lot to do with how you've managed to build a big following around it, right? Like your differentiator was one, understanding a different audience and speaking to them differently. Like all the other brands were very like millennial skewed. Yours is definitely a lot more honest and louder and focuses a lot on destigmatization of the space. Do you think that kind of angle is what has helped you amass this like massive following?
Well, for sure. I mean, I think it's actually a big misconception that like I was an influencer first and then started the brand. Like I think I had like maybe 40,000 on Instagram, no TikTok when we started, which is not enough to like raise capital off of, you know, I'm, you know, a huge creator, I'm going to do this. But like, I've gained 6 million followers across channels. And that's very much like directly from 2021 when we launched the brand, right?
Wow.
I do think that being open about periods like led to many viral moments, right? Because I mean, the unfortunate reality is a lot of these algorithms, you know, you benefit from being slightly controversial, right? Because it gets people to comment, and commenting engagement leads to more sharing, which means leads to more views, right? And so I think when we came out in like a really bold way, it evoked an emotional reaction from people that led to high engagement and a lot of virality, right? And so, yeah, absolutely. I think like being bold got a visceral reaction from people. And I'm not even just talking about the videos that were more visual, like showing period blood, but like literally saying things like, I'm on my period and my period is 9 days long, right? Or people were just shocked by that. Or like, this is the tampon and this is how I use it, right? Or even explaining what a first period is. Like a lot of our original viral videos were just like straight up education, which I think just exposes like the lack of progress we've made around sex ed. And, you know, we also came into the world in 2021. Like I was finishing up college over Zoom, right? And so there was, I think, also the need for online community was really, really big then. And we were able to create that around your menstrual cycle.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen how like core content creation is to your life. And I want to know, I think you said once you posted like 100 videos in a day. Is that real? Are you editing your own videos? Like how are you able to do so many things and also live this like heavy content creator life? Well, where you're doing it for yourself and your brand.
I don't make 100 videos a day. Like I definitely, I mean, and you can see it now because TikTok has this function where you can sort your videos from like newest to oldest. And like I can see and scroll through the days where I was just like churning out mostly shitty content that didn't go anywhere, like didn't get any views or anything. But like I think that in June of 2021, when I was just like testing out this platform, I was just posting everything I made. Like, and if you actually think about it, like, 100 is a lot, but if most of them are trending audios that where you're just like filming yourself for 5 seconds and then you put text over it, and I made everything about periods, like it was just that kind of content, but it was constant testing, right? And a lot of our original viral videos like were literally a trending audio, which is like, it's meme content.
That's
the template
crazy.
is there, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that for me, like, it's a lot of practice. Like I've probably spent thousands of hours. I've made like over 6,000 videos over the last 5 years, like short form videos. Like it's just practice in a way where like I was editing a vlog on the way here and I think I kind of dissociate and do it. It's almost like a flow state now.
Yeah.
And I don't think this is healthy, but like content has become something I don't strategize about doing. It's just that I make content about everything. So it's not something that I like have to remember to do.
Yeah.
I just like literally have content about everything.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. Like if I have to make content, like I need like 2 hours to like walk and think about what I'm going to make.
Yeah.
Let alone to like start making it. You know, like it's so inherently not part of my personality that it's just so difficult. So when I see someone like you, I'm like, how does your brain work in a way where you're like, this is good content. This is good content. Yeah. It almost isn't. It's just like you're recording everything and it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's like, I don't think every content creator is like this, but I think that's the only way I'm able to balance being an operating founder and making content is to make content about everything and not think about like, is this good content? Is this bad content? But like, I'm just making content and putting it out there. And if it doesn't do well, I archive it. Right. Like, I think that it's just, you know, constant. I also think that it is like very much a strategy to not think about like, how I look, doing my makeup. Like I don't think about what I'm wearing, which means that like I'm not a content creator known for my style or for my makeup or anything like that. But it just eliminates that like prep time, right? So for me, there's no minutes where I'm thinking about like, what do I look like? How do I show up? Like I'm just like, and I think it reads as authenticity. Yeah. But again, it's like, it's not me being like, I'm going to be authentic. It's just like, I'm literally too lazy to think about how I'm going to curate my image. So I'm just going to show up as I am. Yeah.
I think that also takes a lot of confidence in its own way. Like a lot of people are really concerned about how they're showing up and looking on the internet. And that also leads to like when you hit the kind of virality that you've hit and the number of followers, like how do you deal with all of the negativity that also comes with that?
You know, I have been making content in some way, shape, or form for the last 10 years. And, you know, starting a period-related nonprofit when you're in high school and it starts as like having to get up in front of the whole school and like talk about periods and try to get your peers to take you seriously. Like doing things like that over 10 years has just like built my armor. Like, I think that in many ways, like obviously people can leave mean comments, but it's just, you've been doing it for so long that a lot of mean things people say, like I've heard so many times that it's just like, you know, like it just becomes old. I also think that like I've had to work through so much of like my own insecurities. And I don't think I've been historically nice to myself in my mental health, which means that like a lot of things people say is like not anything meaner than what I've already thought about myself. Yeah. Which adds this kind of like layer of armor too.
Yeah. I don't know. I went through some of your posts where, you know, you're either like putting a tampon in on video or like, and I read some of the comments predominantly by men. Yeah. And I would just find it so demoralizing to realize, to like come to the conclusion that there are so many people who still think that way or who are like so scared about the fact that like women have periods. Yeah. You know?
But you know, the comments from the men do not surprise me at all. Like I think I have such low expectations of like, we live in a patriarchal, misogynistic culture that like erases periods. Yeah. The comments that like make me emotional are the ones from women, are the ones who are like, this is disgusting. And I'm like,
really?
Those are the ones that always motivate me because I'm like, that's so much internalized shame. Yeah. The ones from men, like, I'm like not surprised by at all. It's the ones from women who are like, honestly, the most hurtful and the most like, I find motivating. Yeah.
Yeah. I had that same experience. What was that app that trended for like a week where it was like went crazy? It was like basically just people getting on different live voice.
Clubhouse. I was really into Clubhouse.
Oh my God. I used to listen to it when I like couldn't sleep at night. And there was one on abortion and I was like, oh, I'm just going to listen to this. And it was shocking to me how many of the people who were angry on there that women were having abortions were women. Yeah. And I remember after that being like, whoa, I thought this was like a male issue. No. And it is so much more hurtful and demoralizing to hear that it's generally women not supporting other women. Yeah. I want to get a little tactical around the content element. If somebody, you know, wanted to start a brand today and they wanted to execute by doing a ton of content and like seeing what worked, what didn't, do you have any like advice, apps, like things that you love and use that you think would just like immediately add value to someone's like content creation journey?
Yeah. Well, first, I don't think every founder should or need to be public facing. Like my co-founder is public facing in some ways, but he's not like making TikToks, you know? And I think that for me, like that, it comes naturally to me. I enjoy making content. I don't think everybody does, right? I think many of my founder friends, like it gives them more anxiety than excitement.
And it's also so obvious when someone's like not enjoying it. You're like, you look awkward.
It doesn't resonate. It takes you so long. And it's an opportunity cost for you to spend time doing things that you are good at, right? But I mean, there are a lot of benefits to doing content and having a public facing founder because it means that like, I mean, it is probably one of the cheaper brand awareness things, right? But I would say that for me, like I am all about like speed, right? Because like most of my job is like emails, Zoom calls, meetings. It's not making content. I think I'm carving out more time to intentionally make content. But I think that for me, like I really utilize whatever tools possible. Like there are reposting tools that help you repost across so many different platforms because like I'm handling TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, LinkedIn, like there are lots of different platforms and I primarily like distribute the same videos overall. I used to literally manually repost every one of those, but now there are tools that do that, like Repurpose. Like there are all these different AI tools where it just automatically reposts to all 5, right?
And you're doing it for both your personal brand and the brand, or do you have a social person?
We have social team at August. I think that we're in like a bit of a transition period where we're also figuring out like how do we scale this, right? Because I think that like, I mean, the approach on personal is so different from brand. And I think that we see that more and more. And so I primarily am focusing on my socials.
Yeah. And you've built such a like digital brand, obviously, especially with being a content creator. Like August started D2C, I assume, right?
Yeah.
What has been like the biggest surprise over the past year or two as you've started to go into retail? And also, can you talk a bit about like how such a young brand even got such big retail partners like Target?
So we were direct to consumer, I think, for the first couple of years. And then we launched in Target. We're at about a little over 400 stores around the country. And then we just launched in Whole Foods and we're at H-E-B. And I mean, social has been a really big way that we've been able to like introduce our brands to those communities. I think that a really big learning is that like virality doesn't necessarily mean velocity, right? Like we could have viral content moments. It's only in very specific scenarios when like that virality actually leads to sales, right? And it's different. That's where like the mentality around like brand versus personal content, it is very different, right? Because on the personal side, virality is what you're going for, right? Like I'm trying to make viral content, views is the result, right? Like impressions is the result. Virality on a brand side is a means to an end, right? Because like as a business, like we need to drive sell-through within stores. And so for us, it's like not just virality for the sake of virality. It's like what kind of content, how viral, like virality might not even really make a difference. It's like having the right people see it, right? I think as an example, like H-E-B is a huge grocery chain, but it's only in like Texas, right? And so like who are the people that are seeing it and like what is it about, right? That's where we see content that is just about like having your period isn't going to drive sell-through. But if it's specifically about the product and what makes the product different and maybe the values of the company, like that does drive the needle. And so I think that it's just like an added layer of like, what is the intentionality? What is the goal of it? And like, are we going viral for the right reasons? Is virality even the goal?
Do you not think though that virality has even though it might not be commercial virality, it still has the impact of awareness? And
I think
people
in certain
need to
cases,
see more people need to see your brand so that when they walk into store, they can have that association.
Yes, but like for many viral videos, like if your brand's not in it and your logo doesn't show up, the product isn't even there. There's not that association. And that's what I'm saying is like we've had viral moments where like we gained 5,000 followers. Like we have people who know about August. But like if you think about the consumer behavior, like they're on the For You page, they're engaging with viral content. That doesn't mean they're following the account, right? Like I think of all the funny dog videos that I watch and like and share, but like I have no idea who made the video. I have no idea what that account is. I didn't even click into the account. I just like kept scrolling, right? And so I think that that's why I'm like virality isn't necessarily always the goal. In the way where like in my personal page, like Virality is the end goal, right? And on the brand side, that's just not. That's not the case. Yeah.
That makes sense. And in terms of like getting into retail, can you talk to me about like what that process was like? How you guys managed to get Target first retail supplier? Like, what does that look like if I'm kind of starting out and trying to move away from D2C thinking? Like, do you have to repackage? Maybe even go into a bit into detail about like distributors. Like, how does that kind of work?
I mean, I think every retailer is different. And I mean, first and foremost, like we have the right team members who are working on this. Our VP of Business Development, whose name is Erin, she really manages a lot of these relationships. Every retailer is different, right? So you can use a broker to get into Target. That's what we did. And Target doesn't require a distributor. Some places do. I mean, I would say that it was a huge learning experience going into Target as our first retailer. It is a completely different shopping experience too, right? Like I think something we've done over the last couple of years is like adjust our packaging because I mean, I literally drove across the country from Oregon to New York and I stopped in like 20 different cities making content, doing meetups, literally meeting people in the aisles of Target. And I've spent so many hours in the Target aisle, like watching people shop in the period care section. And the packaging that works on direct to consumer is just not what's going to work in retail. Because if you think about it, like if you're ordering something online, you're going to that product page because you already know what it is.
Totally.
And like one of the like, honestly, like, you know, punch in the gut, but like wake up calls for me watching people shop in aisle was like, I would introduce myself. I would say like, this is August. We just launched at Target. I would watch them pick up the box, spin it around and then ask me like, what is it? Right.
Whoa.
And I'm like, it says night pads in big letters on the top of the box. But it doesn't say it maybe as big on the middle.
Yeah.
And maybe night pads isn't really clear what it is. Like, but you know, we designed that original packaging for a direct to consumer and it's not the same thing that works in aisle, right? It's also the added challenge that like period care is like the aisle that people want to spend the least amount of time in, right? Like there's still that stigma where it's like you grab what you always grab, you put it in your cart and you go, right? And one of the learnings that I took away from this road trip where I was like basically doing these like little listening sessions was I remember continuing to ask like, these people who were fans of August and had followed us, had loved us for years, had reposted our things and had never bought us in store. And I'd be like, well, so like what products do you use?
Yeah.
And they just didn't know the brand. They would say the blue box.
Interesting.
And it was like such a fascinating learning for me because, and I came back to the team being like, this is crazy. Like they've been buying the same box every month. They're buying the same box that their moms and probably their grandmas bought. And they can't tell me the name of the brand. Like, that's great. That's like, you would never hear that in beauty, right? Like you know exactly like what is the brand. It's so brand forward. And I think that that's where there's a challenge and opportunity in period care is like, it's almost been like brandless, right? It's been like a commodity product, right? Like I have no loyalty to the toilet paper brand I use. I literally get what's on sale. I can't name what brand of toilet paper I have in my house, right? And I think that what we were trying to create is like this true consumer behavior shift, which is like, it is brand forward. And we are seeing that. And like, we're not the first brands to try to do that. But I think that it was a big learning for me of like, okay, the packaging it introduces something completely new.
Yeah. That is something that just stands out regardless of brand because they've heard of the brand essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I think for me, those learnings also went to show like we have so many fans out there who've just never bought the product. And so from that, I think over the last year, we've been a lot more forward about like, we are a brand that makes best in class products, right? Versus like, it was a learning for me of like, we built a amazing online community and like maybe 3% of those people, which is not a lot, but still a lot, didn't know that we make products, right? Like we made such a meaningful community that like, it wasn't clear that like we were a business.
Yeah, they were like there for the memes.
We were there for like the content and the entertainment and the community, which is great.
Yeah.
But like, at the end of the day, it's like, in order to host that community, we need to be growing, right? And so I think that it's just constant learnings in that way.
Yeah. I mean, you said it started in 2020, right? So
yeah, we launched 2021, but like started working on it 2020.
Yeah. So we're coming into kind of, 5 years of being an entrepreneur. How are you feeling about what the next stage of the business looks like based off of everything you've learned?
I mean, I think it's challenging, if I'm going to be honest. Like, well, so this is technically like my third company. Like I ran this nonprofit for 6 years. Then me and my co-founder, Nick, we actually worked on another company that he started when he was 16, a Gen Z marketing agency. And then August, which is now like 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to feel very adult.
Yeah.
You know, I just got engaged. So like, I feel like getting married. It like just feels very adult.
Yeah.
And I think in everything in my career, I was always like the youngest one in the room. And like, that's not the case anymore.
Yeah.
And like, I'm often asked if being young is a disadvantage and if I've like experienced discrimination, but I actually think it was the opposite.
Yeah.
Like, I
Same.
think that
I think
being younger, like worked to my advantage because like people were so impressed.
You were different.
Yeah, it was different. It was a differentiator. And like people had such low expectations because of my age that like anything I said, they were like impressed by, right? Now I'm like at the age where like, honestly, being a founder who's raised capital is like, it's not like a shocker, you know, like it's actually like, oh, like, yeah, you're out of college, you know, like it's not rare, you know, in this space. And so I think that like, it's been an adjustment, you know, and I think that we're also at the stage of business where like, it's honestly not as much about the heart and soul, right? Like you're raising capital at this stage. And it's about the numbers. And it's not like your business has to stand on business, right? It's like at the beginning, it's all like, this is the change we want to be in the world. And very dreamy. And like, I am a big dreamer. That's like where I am. And I think that's why my co-founder and I work so well because like he roots us in reality. And I think the business is now at a point where it still is about the change we want to create in the world, but we have to back that up with reality. And I think that it just puts an added layer of pressure, but it also makes the conversations very different, right? And the type of investors very different.
Totally.
And the metrics very different. It's a big change. Like I think we're kind of at an inflection point of the business. I feel very lucky in many ways because I recognize that there are a lot of brands out there that started at the same time we did that are like no longer here, you know? And so I take every single day with like so much gratitude that we're still here, but I'm also filled with fear. Like I want to still be here a year from now and 5 years from now. And the reality of being a small business is like, that's not a guarantee. And so I think for me, there is a lot of like anxiety and a lot of fear. And like, I try to not let that stop me, but it's like very real. I mean, you know that as a business founder, it's like every day is just like,
we were just talking about this before we started recording, but like how since I've sold the company, I've realized like I just sleep again, you know, like I've realized how much of my consistent anxiety was to do with the fact that you always feel like you're running out of money. Like even once you've done a raise, by the time you've closed it, you've spent half of it, you know, like because you're still pushing and it always takes longer than you think. And then it hits the bank and you're worried about the next raise. Like you just never really have a moment. And that's not to say there aren't fucking amazing things about running a company, right? Like I'm going to do it again. I'm going to complain about it for a while first, but then I'm going to do it again. Yeah. But you definitely are in this constant, at least for me, this like gut wrenching feeling of like, what's the next bad thing that's going to hit, right? Yeah. But also one of the biggest joys of my life. Yeah. I think.
It's like super high highs. Yeah. And then like low lows. Yeah. And so, I mean, it's something I've been very public about is like, I also was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder right before we started this company. And I've been able to manage it now. And like BPD is one of the things that like, it never goes away, but you can manage it so that like, you don't always test for as positive or not positive isn't the right word. You're not always like in kind of BPD state. Yeah. And like, I'm in a really managed state right now. But like, I think I also came into this entrepreneurship journey, like where like my mental health was literally by definition having highs and lows constantly. Yeah. And so I think it's also just been like, there are times where like, it just feels like a lot. It's like a lot and there's no certainty. Humans don't like uncertainty. And like being a founder is being in a locked state of uncertainty. Yeah. And I think that can be really exhausting sometimes.
Yeah. I've seen that you actually talk about this a lot. You also talk about like how you've learned over the years that sleep is really important to your mental health. And you strike me as someone who very similar to me, like I have too much urgency, I think. You know, like other people can step away from something and be like, I can do that tomorrow. I get this feeling of like, this is urgent. Yeah. Like, and I think that's very beneficial for if you're starting a company, because otherwise people never bring things to life, right? Like it will just stay as an idea and never become a reality. So urgency is like amazing skill set, but it also like gets in the way of rest and sleep and like mental health focus. Like, what made you realize how valuable that is? And like, my experience with realizing I need more sleep is it in many ways, sometimes it gives me more anxiety, or I need more space, because then I have the anxiety of like, I'm not executing at the level that my peers or my investors think I should be executing.
Yeah. I mean, I had to learn the value of sleep the hard way. It was not like an easy lesson. Like when I tell you, starting in high school, there were multiple times before I graduated where I was passing out from exhaustion, being wheeled away in an ambulance, put on an IV.
This was at high school?
In high school.
Okay.
For them to say, you're exhausted, you need to sleep. And then me coming out being like, fuck them, they don't know me. Like, I can do all this shit. Like, I think that for me, like, and then I went to Harvard where being on the brink of burnout was like almost like flex. It was like just the type of atmosphere. Like I was just back on Harvard campus and I kept thinking about like, I would pull these all-nighters at the library and then you would see your friends and be like, oh, hey dude, like, how are you doing? And it'd be like, I'm so tired. I haven't slept in 3 days. And it was like almost like a complaint, but also like a flex. Like I'm so busy. I'm hustling so hard. And I came into my entrepreneurship journey like 2014 when like hustle culture was at its peak. It was like, fuck sleep, sleep when you die, you know, work hard. Like my first office, or one of my first offices was at a WeWork where like that wording was on posters, you know, it was all about like hustle till you drop, right? And if you're not on the brink of burnout, you're not working hard enough. And like, I think I lived and breathed that mentality for so long. And then it bit me in the butt. Like I completely burnt out. I was depressed. And then when the pandemic hit and I was forced to be in one place, I just wanted to fucking kill myself. Like that's literally what it was. It was just like so dark. And then I went to residential rehab where like they forced me to sleep. Like literally they put me on medication, like such heavy medication where like I had to sleep.
Whoa.
And I had complex PTSD, was like diagnosed insomniac. I did not like sleeping. I did not want to go to sleep. I had nightmares. Like sleeping was a bad thing for so many reasons. Like I think I was conditioned to think it was lazy. It was a waste of time. And then it bit me in the butt. And honestly, like, I went to the extreme. Like I literally was in rehab, like being drugged to like sleep 8 to 10 hours a night. And I was like happier in the day. And I was like, wow, I'm not like dissociating.
This works.
I have memories. Like, I think I was almost like forced to realize like, wow, like I feel great. I'm like, I have better memory, like short-term memory. I'm not, like, I think that there are years of my life that led to probably a lot of mistakes, or they did lead to a lot of mistakes in my career, where like I just like was not conscious. I think I was like sleepwalking through life, where I was like so tired. Like I ran for office in 2017 and was like canvassing 6 hours a day, running this nonprofit, doing my freshman year of college, and slept like no more than 3 hours a night for like 6 months. And like I remember the campaign ended. We didn't win, but we like had good results. And like I slept for 24 hours. Like I did not get out of bed. And I just look back on that as like such a dark time. But it's hard because in society, it was also the time where I was like being the most rewarded as like young entrepreneur, you know, killing it, making these moves. But I was like so depressed. I had no friends and I was like so exhausted. And now I sleep like 8 to 10 hours a night. This is a hard week for me because I've only been sleeping 6 hours a night. And like, because I've been traveling so much, but like usually I'm sleeping 8 to 10 hours a night. Like that is what I am doing. And like, that is pivotal. And I'm a grumpy shell of a being if I sleep less than 8 hours a night.
I think it's so important to keep pushing that. Like I was trying post, you know, Flume exit, I was trying to figure out what I want to do next. And I was like looking through LinkedIn, like what jobs are out there? Like now that I'm a generalist, like what job do I even look for? And I came across a couple of companies that were like, this is like a 7 days a week culture. And I'm like, who is still shouting about that shit like post-COVID? Like everybody has realized, and there's also like scientific data to back it up now, that that's just not beneficial for anybody. And it's so funny to see that some people are like still holding on to that concept. And it just reminds me how important it is to see someone like you who does so many things, and it looks like you're always traveling, you're always posting, you're running marathons, like, you know, you're just doing so much. And it's incredibly important that you also have the honesty to be like, even though it might not be super cool, to be like, no, sleep is important. And it's not about being busy all the time.
And I do like want to, like, I think I've tried to talk more on social about like how sleep is my biggest productivity hack. But like, I really did have to learn that the hard way. And I think that Like the only way I'm able to do, like even especially with marathon training, which I've like totally fallen off the deep end into.
I know. I have no idea how you've done that.
No, like when I tell you,
I hate running.
I hated running 10 months ago. Like I never ran before 10 months ago. Like I'm
and you've now ran like what?
5 marathons. Like I'm so, which is not.
This is so you. This is so your personality though.
And like I recognize that. I'm like, do I have to do that? Like it's a little masochistic. It's a little fucking crazy. But like, I think one of the reasons I love marathon training is like, it makes you forcibly think about rest, because if you don't rest, you get injured. And like, I think that I'm kind of testing this, like, wow, like I run and I sleep so fucking good. Like running has solved like my poop issues, and I've been constipated my whole life. And suddenly I'm running and like my bowel movements are regular. Like it served me so well. And I think in many ways it served my sleep really well. And I think that I really value like my sleep. And I'm like, wow, exercising in a cardio way helps me sleep better.
I think this is testament as well to how much of a how good you must be at convincing people, because I've now seen that your sisters are also running marathons with you.
Yes.
I'm like, this just doesn't, like, you've taken 3 non-runners, I think, right? And now turn them all into marathon runners. I'm like, what is your secret sauce to convincing people to do shit? Because that is amazing.
Oh my god.
You're the oldest sister though,
yes.
right? So like maybe they already just listen to anything you say.
I'm very much an oldest sister. Like very typically, stereotypically an oldest sister.
Cute. Okay, we're gonna move to hot takes. Okay. We like to finish this off with hot takes. And it's not like a fireside round. It doesn't need to be super fast. You can think about it. The first one I want to ask is, do you think that the founder of a Gen Z brand needs to be the face of the brand for it to be successful?
No.
Really?
No, not at all. No.
I definitely think that for millennial, but Gen Z, I feel like they really like want this like authentic thing to align with when it comes to a brand. And maybe that can be done through purpose and values. Yeah. But yeah.
I don't think it needs to. I think it can like help, right? Which is like, I think especially for like a Gen Z shopper, there's a lot of, feeling of disappointment in some of these huge companies that are you don't know who's behind it. Yeah. You don't know if the values, like, I think that cancel culture is a result of feeling like a lot of broken trust, right? Not knowing who's behind these companies, not knowing if your values align with them. So in that way, I think being public facing, like, I think it can be a huge asset and it can help. It can also be a huge risk, right? Mm-hmm. Like if I fuck up or I'm not everybody's cup of tea, right? And so in that, and like, I'm not going to resonate with everybody. So in some ways, I think it's also a risk, right? Like, I think you shouldn't be the face. Mm-hmm. You could be a face, but not like the face, right? And I think it also goes back to like, I don't think every founder needs to feel comfortable making content, right? Like if I told my co-founder, Nick, to like make a TikTok dancing video, it would be a complete waste of his time. Yeah. And it probably wouldn't do so well, but he's an amazing founder. And like this company wouldn't be where it is today without him, so I think in that sense, like, I think it really depends on what comfort zone is. I think there are a lot of ways that you can accomplish transparency and, trust, right? Mm-hmm. I think that being founder and forward facing and making content is just the way that we do it. And has it saved a lot of money and made us be able to grow organically? Yes, right? Because if you think about it, especially at the beginning, when you talk to other founders about like, how do you grow? It's like influencer marketing, paid marketing. That shit is expensive, right? And
competitive.
Because
that's what everyone's doing.
Yeah. And like, it is a differentiator and can be a big tool where I'm like, I am not compensated for my content work in cash. That's like my co-founder equity, right? And so like, it's not taking away from that like top line of the company. And like, I will make as much content to make the company successful and be a top of funnel, right? So I think in many ways it can be an asset, but I don't think it has to be necessary. Yeah.
Natalie and I have actually talked about this topic a lot. And I feel that it's also very steered to women. Yeah. Like women feel like, and I don't know if it's because we feel like we have like one less strength because we're already not getting the funding that we have, that we also have to like, we feel this need to put ourselves out there to have an extra, to build community and be like you said, like an extra Meta or an extra Instagram or an extra advertising channel, essentially. And you just don't see this pressure on men in the same way. Where like, I know men who have several companies. So of course they're not the face of it because they can't authentically say like, oh, I'm really into this supplement, but I also have like this completely different company, you know, like it would look fake.
Yeah. Although that's where I do think like the creator economy is like a female dominated, space. Yeah. And so I think like that's where I'm like, I think there is more pressure as a woman because like we do better on social media. Like I think and that's why it is a huge opportunity.
Yeah.
I will say like one of the biggest compliments that I like get the most fulfillment from is when I meet someone who buys from August, subscribes from August, loves August, and has no idea that I'm affiliated. Mm-hmm. Like that makes me so happy. And I think a lot of people are surprised when I say that, but I'm like, for me, like I got into doing so much content. Like obviously I make a lot of content about my personal life, but like I only started because I wanted to be a top of funnel for the brand, right? And like I wanted the brand to stand alone and do well. And like when I think about the longevity of the brand and the scalability of the brand, like it cannot just be me, right?
Yeah,
like
of course.
And so that's why like for me, like I'm so honored when like people, and I'm very proud that I think there are a lot of people who don't buy because of me. Like when we do our post-purchase surveys, like I'm not necessarily the number one reason they know of the brand. And like, that's what I love. Like I love when like the reason they bought from August is because their friends told them about it and the product stands for itself. And so like, I want to continue being a top of funnel, but like, I don't want to be equated. Like, I don't want it to be like Nadya's brand. I want it to be like, Nadya's so passionate about this and this is what she does. But like I can be August, but I don't want August to be me, if that makes sense. Yeah.
I think though what you do for the brand is because you are so authentic and you're like willing to go out on a limb on things, like take a tampon out on camera, there is a level of trust that comes with that. Yeah. You know, like when all of that news was coming out about like how pretty much every single tampon had chlorine or some toxin in it or whatever it was, and you were like, hey, this isn't us. Like I trusted that. Yeah. Because I trust you because of how authentic you are on social. So I think that whilst, you don't want to be the reason people are buying, I think you are the reason that people trust. And it is something that requires trust. Yeah. Because it's something that is so intimate. Yeah. We kind of already touched on this, but one of the hot takes was the future of brand loyalty is shared values. Do you think that's true? Or do you think like product leads everything? Or do you think like, because I share the same values as this brand, I will just forever buy it?
I think product has to be a priority because, and I will say we've seen a lot of this in the period product world, right? Yeah. Where there was a great brand and the product was shit, right? And like, I think that period products especially, right? Like we could have the best brand, but if people are bleeding through their tampons and pads and it's uncomfortable and it's not something that they want to use, like they might follow us on social, but they're not going to buy the product, which means that we won't be able to sustain as a business and we'll go out of business, So I think product has to be there. Even as someone who like, I love brand, I'm obsessed with brand, I love building brands, like our product has to be amazing. And like the product is what we're selling, but like, and the brand is the tool of like how we introduce that to people. Yeah. But like, I do think we spend a lot of time thinking about product, improving product. That's also why we exist, right? Like if I set out, by the way, to just like destigmatize periods, I wouldn't have started a company. I would have just kept being an advocate, like, which is what I was doing before. I wrote a book called Period Power. I published this book. I was on speaking tour and book tour. But like, so much of the research that I did for that book led me to want to start a company because I was like, here I am advocating. Literally, some of these bigger brands were clients of mine. Like, I've been trying behind the scenes. They're paying me behind the scenes to try to make them better, and they're not fucking doing it. Like, I want to see that change. I want to be that change. So, like, I think that's where it's like, I started this company because I wanted to make better products, right? If it was just about the ethos side. Yeah. I also think, like, for me, like, I wanted to destigmatize periods, not just for the case of like people being comfortable, like that is a goal, but like so we could push the industry to be better, right? And so I think that that's where, for me personally, like product is such an essential part of that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm 38 years old. I've used a lot of tampons in my life, and I will say that I've pretty much used every single brand out there, and I will say that you guys have some of the best products I've ever used. Like I get annoyed now when my gym has a very big brand that we won't mention. And I know the president of my gym, and I just message her and I'm like, we need to get these out. Like we need August in. Yeah. And so, your product definitely stands up to to what you say it does. And I think that's also really impressive, and it is not true for the majority of brands that exist in this day and age, because it's so easy to start a company now that people are like, oh, I'll just white label something and it'll be more about like brand.
Yeah. But
this has been a super inspiring and lovely conversation, and I'm so happy you made time for us on your very short trip to LA.
Of course.
And yeah, I'm really excited to share it with our audience.
Thank you so much for having me.